Stu. Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name's Stuart Allen. I'm from Brighton in the south of England. I live here in Xi'an. Been living here since 2002.
Right. How old is your child? Can you introduce him?
Yeah, Layton is 8 years old now, and he was born. He actually wasn't born in Xi'an. He was born in Nanning, in the south of China. And yeah, he just goes to school locally here. He's a good kid.
And what nationality is he?
Chinese.
He's
Chinese.
Chinese.
Yeah. We he when he was born in Nanning, we got the Chinese green birth certificate thing. Then we had to go and take that to his mum's hometown to do the Hulkar, which is like the document that it's kind of like the family register thing. And he went straight into that. Got a Chinese passport, and he's Chinese. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so obviously your child was born out here in China. How was the whole process, such as the paperwork, hospital service? Was there any bureaucracy, etc.?
Oh, loads. When his mum was carrying and stuff, we had to go down to the hospital every now and again to have the scans and things like that. One difference we did find was where back in the UK everything's free. It's all on the NHS. Everything here is like all the medicine stuff is you have to pay for. So they're saying, right, you need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have this, and we were never sure if that was the actual truth or he actually did need it. For example, they said, right, you need this injection because he might have sickle cell anemia, because they have like malaria carrying mosquitoes down in Nanning. I was like, hold on, how much is that going to cost? It was like 1,500 kwai. I looked up on Google, and apparently the chances are that he could have sickle cell anemia were like negligible. So it was just one of those things that are kind of like scaremongering tactics to get more money out of you during the pregnancy. So
you think they looked upon, obviously you being a foreigner expecting a child, they looked upon that as a money-making scandal in many ways?
I wouldn't say so. I think that's just every Chinese hospital will try and wring additional money out of you. So that's one of the things you need to consider when you're having a child here in China. I think that hospitals aren't free, and they make their money from selling medicine, which you don't always need.
Right. So overall, what would you say about the hospital service?
Overall, yeah, really happy with it. Yeah, Chinese got a massive population. I've spoken to other parents that have children here, and they're really worried about it. I said, don't worry. If one thing that the Chinese can do, they can look after children, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was great. Yeah, no. If we were to have a child again or whatever, yeah, more than happy to have the child here again.
Okay. So what advantages do you think your child, Layton, what advantages do you think he has from being raised in China as opposed to being raised back in the UK?
Really different. Advantages, did you say?
Yes.
I think basically where he's going back to the UK, once or twice a year, he can contrast what it's like to kind of live in one country and the other. So an advantage of being here is that he's away from the UK, and he can contrast to kind of more worldly,
Yeah.
Meeting different people. He meets lots of people from different parts of the world here.
Yes.
Like in the UK, I actually moved away from Brighton to a very small town, Seaford. But here, he meets Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders. He meets people
Africans,
from
South America.
Exactly, the whole mix, and it's really benefited him, I think, developing, an idea about people and how they are around the world.
So can you see a difference with the way Layton interacts with people from different countries and races compared to his friends who obviously are, completely Chinese, they've never left the country?
Yeah.
Can you see a difference?
Yeah, he's much more comfortable meeting people. He can just speak to anybody straight away, whereas...
Yeah. He can, I've noticed that.
Yeah, he's really confident, and he's not shy at all, and whereas someone Chinese, they might come up to you and ask very like traditional questions, the kind of thing, he'll just start chatting away.
Yeah, I've noticed I get a lot of questions off people, you know, can you eat spicy food? You're from England, do you like football? Where's Layton when I visit? You just have a normal conversation with him.
Yeah, he'll just chat away. Yeah, he's a good kid. He's a good kid, yeah.
Okay, so are there any worries that you keep in the back of your mind about your child being raised here in China?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I feel at his school, I don't think the teachers, they're like diverse enough to perhaps not. They're not very widely travelled. Their training perhaps is just teaching methods that haven't much evolved for the last 50 years. You'd think, like in the UK, you look at teachers now, compare them to teachers perhaps in the 1960s, and it would be, I would guess, much more different. Like kind of more new technology, teaching methodology, things like that. And I think here, I would guess it hasn't really changed much in the last 50 years. So it's very, all the lessons are very dry, they're the same. So I do worry about the school thing. In life in general, obviously living in China, it is different to the UK. Things are done differently here. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. I think in general, I'm happy to be raising Layton here, but I do need that mix of being able to take him back home at least once a year to kind of get his feet back on the ground and about kind of life in the West as well.
Okay, so you've taken Layton back home on several occasions for, it's quite extensive periods. It's not like a week or just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's quite often for extensive periods during the summer. Now, how does he enjoy his time in the UK?
Oh, he loves it, because I always make sure I plan ahead. I have ideas what I want to do, so I get in like the picnics and walking in the countryside and things like that. And like for example, if we go to the zoo and things, I make worksheets and stuff like that. So really, he's got very fond memories of the UK. I make sure I kind of get that in kind of thing. And I think if you're going to go back once a year, if you go back for like 2 weeks, it's kind of not enough. So I like to have those extended periods.
Okay, so so it's not just you take them to the UK and let's spend time with the family. You really plan ahead, zoos, how to get to the zoo, how to get back, what to do, and kind of. I don't have a car back in the UK, so I have to I have to bus around. National Express.
Yeah. But I have an idea of what I want to do. Once I get there, I kind of suss out how to get there, kind of thing. Yeah, trips up to London and stuff like that.
So with you, it's not just visiting family; it's more you want them to experience the culture and learn something and bring something back to China.
Yeah, really important.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So in China, this is quite an important one. You see a lot of the discussion forums online speak about this. Now in China, having a child of mixed heritage is still something which is fairly uncommon. How do general members of the public here in China react to your child?
Interest. Out of interest, I think, is the first and foremost. If you're going anywhere with Layton, straight away, the main word I'd say is interest. Like people come over to him, start talking to him. If it was just a Chinese child, just walk straight on by. Obviously, you've got a mixed heritage, mixed blood child. They can, it's something new. Come over and start talking. Sometimes Layton likes it. Other times he just doesn't want the attention at all. Yeah. He hates it. So it depends on his mood, kind of thing. But he gets it for sure.
Now there's two sides to this coin. You remember when I interviewed you for CNEs, the magazine, about having a mixed heritage child in China, raising a child in China. You said you hear a lot of Xiao Lao Wai and Hun Shui, which, like you said, is normal to Chinese people, but you find it very offensive and unnecessary. Now, there's also the other side of the coin where, Hun Shui, they treat Hun Shui like they're some kind of superior human being. And you get that as well. So there's two sides to, you know, there's two sides to the argument. How does it make you feel as his parent when people call him these names?
Yeah, like, I really would prefer everybody not to say anything at all. That would be my preference.
Yes.
You know, oh, mixed blood kid, half-caste kid. You know, Layton's 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. He doesn't want to hear that, you know. I don't think it's very good for him as a person to hear that all the time and to feel different. Yes. I don't think it's good for any kid to feel different. No. So I would really prefer it not to happen. You can't stop it. You can tell one person, and then they go on their merry way. You know, Xi'an's a city of 7 million. You know, you're going to be telling people all the time. You just have to just ignore it in the end.
Right, now, have there been any significant experiences that had really upset or offended you in relation to having a child of mixed heritage here in China? Is there any occasions which really stick in your mind?
Yeah, quite a few. One in particular, we were going to the cinema and we were a bit hungry, and it was about another half an hour before the start of the film, so I took Layton to like a Chinese hamburger place. And we're waiting there, and they're making the Chinese hamburger, and the boss goes to me, "Is he Chinese or English?"
Yes.
I said, I can't be done with this. You know, he's got a Chinese passport. So I said, well, he's Chinese. Yeah. No, he's not Chinese, look at him. And my blood started to boil. I just had to like quickly take the burger away, and I just thought it was really unnecessary and rude. If he didn't want that answer, why did he ask me the question in the first place?
Because the last interview when I spoke to Phil, he said, the thing is, you do get frustrated, you do get angry, but you can't say anything because you will be outnumbered. That's what he said. And he says, someone could say the most offensive thing in the world about your kid, but if you stand up and you lose your temper, you will lose. You're going to be the person who's in the wrong because you're a foreigner. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally, all the time. Yeah, if I had started to argue with this man and say, you know, I think you're wrong in saying that, you know, and you know, you're sort of hiding to nothing. All you can do is just take your child away and move on. You know, this man's very ignorant. You know, and I wouldn't and I wouldn't ever say this. He was indicative of everyone that is Chinese, because he wasn't.
Yes.
But him as an individual, you know, I certainly wouldn't go back and eat there again.
So would you say the person himself, did you get the impression he was just a bit of a prick?
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I wouldn't ever paint any others with the same brush. You know, that was an individual that was saying that.
Of course not.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, with Layton being called like Huntre, I do think it's very unnecessary, and I do on occasion say, look, you know, can you not say that? And they apologise, and I've got a feeling they don't really realise what they're apologising for, because it's so natural for Chinese people to say that.
Yes.
I say, look, can you not say that? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry about that. But they probably walk away thinking, I wonder why he was like that.
I mean, a lot of people tell me, they say, when Chinese people say a hunchra or anything like that, they don't mean to be offensive. They would never say it in a nasty way. It's just the Chinese people, we think that they're really special and they're so intelligent. And all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we come from a multicultural society.
Yes, we do.
Where you could call someone a half-caste in the 70s or the 80s, but you know, and then once society, you're like, well, actually, you shouldn't label people in that way, and so we you know, stop saying it. But here, that hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. I mean, people have to understand the UK was the same at one point. I mean, it was quite often, if you hear stories, you know, when people have spoke about it when they were a kid, if they were black, they were openly called, oh look, there's an N kid. I'm not going to say the word on camera because it's it's a foul word, but they would, oh look, there's a little N kid, and people would often say that. And I mean, now you think, if you hear that now, I mean, it turns your stomach. You think that's disgusting, but you know, 40, 50 years ago,
it's very natural. Yeah. My like probably everybody in the UK, you know, we've got like grandparents, and you know, when you were kids, you know, the older family members, things like that.
Oh, they would,
yeah. But now obviously it's totally unacceptable, and I think China, it will be like that in the future. There's just so few foreign people here, comparatively, with mixed race kids. But as time goes by, the numbers will just go up and up, and people are coming over here to live and work and getting married here. So the numbers are just going to get, year on year, going to get more. And I think eventually Chinese people realise that they perhaps shouldn't be saying this.
So the word you use is that you feel it's unnecessary to call your kid a Hunxue or Lao Wai, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for me, totally unnecessary. Just for me, he's a child, and it doesn't need a label.
And Layton, obviously, some days he can't be bothered for it. Because I remember at the hash run when I've seen him twice, he does get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Not so much off the foreign community, but the Chinese people who are participating, they're all wanting their photos taken. They're all taking selfies of themselves and Layton.
I think the main thing is the questions that he gets asked by everybody, and it's always the same.
It's the same with us, yes.
Yeah. What's your name? How old are you? What school do you go to? What grade are you in? In that order. And there's no other different questions, and he's like, oh, here we go again. And sometimes you can see, he's like, I don't want to talk to you. And I say, Layton, like, you can't be like that, because although that's a millionth time you've been asked these questions, that's the first time this person's asked you. Yes. And don't give her a bad impression of you. First impressions last. Just answer the question. And
especially with Layton, because he's a mixed heritage child, that person Layton will stay in their mind.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wow, he's mixed heritage, I want to speak to him.
Make a good impression, move on. Yeah, but it does do his head in.
So, his mother is Chinese. How does she feel about the way people label him?
She doesn't like it either. Like, I was talking to her the other day, and she getting ready for this, and she said, the way I see it is, if there was a blind man, you wouldn't say, hey, look, he's a blind. You just say, look, there's a man there. There's no need to give that label. So she doesn't like the Xiaolawai or the Hunxue. She also detests it.
So she's also against it. To her, it's also very offensive. Especially,
unnecessary.
It must be extreme for her because she's Chinese, her child is Chinese, but they're labelling him as though he's not Chinese. That must hurt her as well. Yeah,
she's. I think it upsets her. Obviously, being Chinese, she's quite thick-skinned to it. And I'd say, if you got really, really stressed out about it, it's so many people are doing it all the time. You're just gonna, your hair be falling out. So you just kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt and keep moving on.
Okay.
But yeah, she doesn't like it.
So, have you ever taken Layton to Hong Kong, Beijing or Shanghai? And if so, did people in those cities treat him differently as opposed to here in Xi'an?
Yeah, he's been to all of those places. And yeah, he gets no attention at all.
Especially in Hong Kong, I imagine, because I mean, foreigners have been there for like over 100 years, easy.
To be honest, though, we took him to Disneyland for Christmas and stuff, and he's walking around, he's getting no, like, extra special attention. But at the time, I didn't notice. But now that you've said it, and I think back on it, he got nothing at all. So perhaps in the future in Xi'an, it'll be the same.
In the next 30 to 40 years, maybe? Do you
think?
Or
sooner.
Maybe sooner.
I think sooner than that. Yeah, I think sooner than that. I think the young generation of Chinese people now are a lot more global than the older Chinese generation, and I don't think they would do that so much.
Yeah, I see a big difference in my... I work in the international department of a high school, and I'm teaching the kids, the more affluent kids who are going to study in the US, the UK, etc. And I even see they are just so more kind of globally minded compared to when you meet their parents and you speak to their parents, because these kids, obviously from wealthy families, they've already done the language exchange in the United States as part of the international program that they're studying on, and also they do a lot of travelling anyway, purely because their families can afford to send them travelling. So they're much more worldly aware. But that's just a small group I'm talking about. But perhaps if I interacted with the regular, the Chinese students who aren't
more kind of middle class or
yes, who aren't middle or upper class, perhaps I would also see a certain kind of difference in there.
Yeah, certainly. Going abroad, studying abroad, going on holidays and things, definitely advantageous to anybody. Just like learning different cultures and things like that. But I would like to think it would be sooner than 30 years.
Yes.
I think probably the next 10 or 15.
Okay, so do you think, obviously, Layton being a child who you could say is mixed heritage, does he get any extra, special treatment? Which you think, well, they're only doing this purely because he's mixed heritage and he's a bit of a novelty as such?
Yeah, he definitely got into his school because of the novelty factor. In my view, he's in one of the better schools here in Xi'an, and we had a meeting with the headmaster, and the headmaster said, "Oh, where's his Hukou, the family book?" And it's not in Xi'an, it's in Shujiazhuang. Straight away he said, I can't let you in the school. It's I can only allocate for a certain amount of places. The people whose family book from around this school, they take priority. Then this, You can't. And then the kids, Layton went up to the library area. He took a book. Just walked over by himself and just sat on the headmaster's lap and started reading in English and Chinese. And it wasn't prompted or anything, he just wanted to go and do it. And the headmaster, he was just blown away. And he said, actually, I've got 2 special places I can award to kids or whatever. And he said, I'm going to give it to Layton, because I think it was like the novelty factor and he had fluent English. And
yes.
Yeah.
I see. And does he ever get involved, when the school is doing promotional activities, will they look for Layton sometimes?
Yeah, like the spelling bee competitions and like the English competitions and stuff. They just want him to...
That would be unfair on the other kids.
Yeah, it's a weapon of mass destruction. Yeah.
That's like his first or second... Well, you say English is his first language, don't you?
Yeah, by a long shot, English is his first language. You'd think it was like even Stevens, it's not. I don't fully know why, because right now he's at a Chinese school. All his friends are Chinese, but the things he can say and how he can get things off his chest, it's just an English kid.
The way he expresses himself.
Yeah, it's all in English kind of thing.
Okay, so overall, what advice would you give to anyone wanting to raise a child here in China?
Not to worry. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay raising a child here in China. Lots of people go, oh no, I have to go back to my home country to raise a child. You don't have to. It's fine. School places are available. Medical care is good. You're going to get the things like Kunshui, things like that. But that's part of any frustration of living here in China. If you don't have a kid, you're going to get called La Wei by people.
Yeah. All
the time. It's not a lot. It's not a huge difference. So not worry, it's very, very doable. There is support out there. There's more and more parents now that are having children here in China, and that trend will continue. And so don't be afraid of it, and just enjoy your life living here in China.
Okay. Do you believe your child is safer here in China or in your home country?
Certainly here.
Really?
Yeah, certainly here. He's safer here. Yeah.
What makes you think that?
I can let my son walk to the shop to go and get the bread or go and get sweets or whatever. But perhaps in the UK, you might have second thoughts about doing that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We might go out for a walk late at night on the weekend when he hasn't at school, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, walking through the parks. You certainly wouldn't do that in cities back in the UK.
Yes, I can understand,
Yeah. There's no... for example, there's no vandalism here. And people say, well, teenagers in the UK, they vandalise because they're bored. I don't think that's true, because I think the kids here would be just as bored. but they don't go out and vandalise things. I think there's a different mindset with children here, and respect for authority and respect for society that children have here, that Layton would be picking up on. And I think if he was going to school in the UK, he would lose that. And so I think actually being a student, having that hard work ethic to study, I think it's good that he's perhaps going to school here.
Now, so in the long term, where will you and your child be? Will you stay in China, or do you think you'll return to the UK?
Ooh, that's a big question. What I would ideally like to have, if I won the lottery, I think, is a home here and a home back in the UK, where we could fly backwards and forwards. You know, obviously that would be very expensive. I think Layton would probably go to university in the UK. That would make sense. Possibly do his GCSEs in the UK. He's 8 at the moment, so what I'm thinking perhaps is to finish off his primary education here in China, and for his secondary education perhaps go back to Sussex.
Okay, right.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah,
I was going to say,
this
is a new apartment block, isn't it?
Yeah.
All I can hear was boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, luckily the drills
everywhere.
didn't come out at the moment, but yeah, we've been okay.
My God. Right, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for that, Stuart. I really appreciate it. Thank you.